Go.
Streaming from South Africa to the world. This is the Stonks Go Moon podcast. What just happened? We break it down so you don't have to.
Welcome everyone to the Stonks Go Moon podcast. My guests today, Jen Stiles and Christopher Sealey. They are from an interesting company called OneOf. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Rock.
Is the first time in this podcast that we have a panel. We have more than one. Usually this is a one-on-one, but I love new things and I love to test new things. So let's see how it goes. I think the best starting point for me, I'm familiar with OneOf, but would be for one of you to tell the listeners what exactly OneOf is that they might not be familiar with it.
Sure. I'll kick it off. So we launched OneOf.com as a digital collectible marketplace in 2021. We wanted to help consumers onboard to Web3. So we are a Web3 technology company, and we're really targeting everyday consumers, and they can sign up with a credit or debit card or using crypto as well. And we've launched with everyone from Doja Cat to Biggie Smalls. We partnered with brands like American Express, iHeartRadio, eBay, and it's been a really exciting journey.
Okay. But there are a few marketplaces, right? Not to sort of dumb it down a lot, but what makes OneOf unique? So it's funny because OneOf, it's one of one, one of five. If you're collecting cards or any digital collectibles, you'll get it. What makes you guys so unique? What's your core value proposition? Sorry.
I think at the very beginning, the idea was to bring everyday people close to the brands, the artists, the athletes, the celebrities that they love. And everything about how the technology and company was built is around that. You had, as Jen said, the ability for anyone with no crypto knowledge to sign up in literally 2 minutes with just an email and a phone. You had digital collectibles at price points that were not priced for sort of well-moneyed crypto collectors, but priced as low as $1 and in many cases free. And the idea there was that, people collect things because they have not only an expectation that it could be valuable to them, but because it matters to them. It matters to them emotionally. And we wanted to put that at the forefront. And I would say the other difference, which is coming to light right now, is that since even 2017, we've been using a lot of these Web3 tools to help brands run loyalty programs, to help brands run their own marketplaces, and really operating as an enterprise software company. And that's something you're going to hear a lot more about in the coming months.
Yeah, let's expand on that a bit, because that was my segue. I wanted to ask you, because NFTs, there has been a significant decrease in trading volume and interest. It's picking up a bit, but throughout, it seems OneOf has been able to grow tremendously and continued at a momentum that is far above what the other guys are doing. How exactly have you guys, how did you go about doing that?
Well, I really think it really goes to our team, the hand-to-hand combat and working and building with the community every day, constantly. I mean, since the beginning, in the inception of OneOf, it's always been about the fans and our consumers and who we can touch and who we can outreach to and really, make them feel at home. And I know that our community leans into that, and they are able to connect with their fans, unlike many other marketplaces.
Yeah, and I mean, that's really, I'll give an example. Today, I have 3 calls with customers. These aren't influencers. These are simply people who bought an NFT on our marketplace and want to talk about it and want to understand what's happening with the future of our company and also what's happening with the future of the market. And obviously I don't have those answers, but the reason I'm doing these calls isn't just customer service, because we have a whole team for that. It's because if we're going to stay ahead of the game and continue to thrive, both as an enterprise software provider and as someone who issues, collectibles that we hope retain value, both emotional and otherwise over time, we need to see what's happening in the streets so to speak. So a lot of our best ideas come from our customers. We found many of the artists we've used in our collection from our community, and even things like the Notorious B.I.G project, which is probably our biggest success to date. The entire idea behind that was to give the most valuable asset of all time in, the hip hop freestyle space to the community. So I think, obviously you've got great people like Jen and our founders who really, cross the T's and dot the I's and are able to think, I think, a little bit ahead of the industry. But we're mostly just using data from the community that supports us and really the community that powers us.
That is such a good point. Last night I was lying in bed watching documentary about Jay-Z and that classic album, 99 Problems, and how he went with Rick Rubin and the studio and how he laid it down. And Jay would always go on, he's like out of the studio into his first concert, he will go to his community, right? He will go to his neighborhood, and then that's where they launch from. So what you say there is so important. We're going back to community, right? And it's the fans want access to these influencers and celebrities, and Web3 is giving us the tools to do that, but we need to recognize that first.
Absolutely. I mean, my first boss, I worked at a music label called Loud Records, a very famous hip hop label under Sony. And Steve Rifkin, the guy who founded Loud, became quite a tastemaker. And I remember Pepsi came into us one day talking about a very large deal. And they said essentially to Steve, how can you make us cool? And he said, well, I can't. I'm a successful 35-year-old, which at the time I thought was incredibly old.
Yeah,
I'm a successful 35-year-old. And so I don't know anything about cool, but I'm connected to all the cool 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds around this country making culture. And that's who I listen to. You come to us for the judgment and for the networks. And I really think that's how OneOf has stayed successful creatively.
We're ageless. Rock on.
I'm 38. That I'm a dinosaur. Sometimes I do feel like a dinosaur when you climb onto TikTok, and there are things that you don't understand. But then, if like Chris said, you have to stay with it, right? Because if you don't stay with it, then you fall behind. Coming to staying with it and being cool, how do you guys connect with celebrities? How does that process work?
Well, I think the most important part is we do our research. I can definitely say our team works diligently on the thoughtfulness of researching the artists, and this, lends to Chris's team, just taking a step back and really understanding like what this partnership looks like and how we can make it meaningful and create awareness, not only for OneOf, but for the artists. So we're a trusted resource as a marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've reached a very lucky place where most of our bigger artists and most of our bigger brand partners have come to us at this point. I think, the trust factor is huge. And I think, we have always looked at this, being founded in partnership with some of the biggest legends in the music industry, our own founders having impressive backgrounds. We look at a drop as an opportunity to tell a story in ways that you can't through other mediums, as an opportunity to bring fans closer to their favorite brands or their favorite creators in a way that you couldn't in other mediums. And we think about the story that these brands and these artists are going to tell before and after, and we try to position them for long-term success. And I think that gives us a lot of trust with them. And honestly, it brings a lot of incoming, which has been a real, treat to have.
Yeah, so a while ago, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I spoke to Scott Page, Pink Floyd, and he's very passionate in this space, talking about digital collectibles and NFTs and Web3 and ushering in a sort of new wave of artists, right? Because they might have all the skills and but they lack the technical know-how. How do I take the skill that I have and these fans that I have, and how do I monetize that? I mean, you talked about B.I.G, the project. I saw Doja Cat. I mean, I don't think she knows anything about Web3. I might be wrong. She might be extremely knowledgeable, but that's sort of where you come in, right?
Well, I think a great example is the Biggie estate, and Chris really led the charge on that. So why don't you, connect on that? I think that.
Sure. I mean, whether it's Doja Cat or Biggie, artists or brands, American Express, let's say, they all come to the table with different knowledge of Web3. But what they
Yeah.
do understand is their customers and fans. And what I say to them during these processes quite often is, listen, we're here to handle the technical enablement. We're here to, with Jen's team to really understand how the Web3 oriented consumer is going to react, which is different perhaps than traditional consumerism. But if anything we're telling you doesn't make sense in the arc of your brand or your artist, we shouldn't do it. None of this should be confusing for you. We're trying to use technology. At our core, what OneOf is trying to do is use some pretty complicated blockchain technology to make the fan, brand, and artist connection easier. Right. That's why the items are priced low. That's why it takes 2 minutes to sign up. That's why you have the power of a very robust crypto wallet in a walletless situation. That's why accessibility is the prime thing. So, in the case of the Notorious B.I.G, their estate has really been smartly managing this project for years, obviously, due to Biggie's untimely death. And they had this core idea, which was, if Biggie were alive today, who does he make music for? He makes music for his fans. He's also a trendsetter, as he was, if you look at his life and lyrics. They actually came to us with the idea of taking his most famous freestyle, which they'd been sitting on for 2 decades, in which they'd had, boundless offers for. And they thought that the best way to pay tribute to his legacy, but not just his legacy, but the spirit of his art going forward, was to give it to fans. And I think they understood, certainly coming in, and certainly by the time it was over, that Web3 is an empowering agent to do just that. There are a few better ways, to really give creative decisions to the masses and really give the rewards from those decisions to the masses. Because remember, when you bought this sold out Notorious B.I.G collectible, not only did you get a collectible that had emotional value, that had a lot of historical accuracy and was just cool, you got an ownership share in this freestyle, which meant that going forward, these 2,000 Biggie holders, they're determining how this song's going to be used. And when you hear this song or sample or lyrics in a new major hip hop song or house song or rock song or country song, it will have been their decision and they get the money. And that's important because I think what we're trying to do when we work with a brand or an artist or a community is create a self-sustaining, creative ecosystem. That's what the promise of blockchain was supposed to be. And that's what we continue to try to work toward.
I think it was hijacked somewhat, but it's good to see that we are on the right path again. Something that you spoke about empowerment in Web3, something that I'm very I feel deeply about, and I feel it's one of my core keystone missions in this space is empowering and enabling inclusivity, because I still feel as much as we've made those inroads, it's still a bit of a bro fest, right? If you go to these conventions and you go to join a community on Discord, so then the question really becomes, but how do we drive that inclusivity? And do they? It's a difficult question, because a lot of people have tried, but then the question also comes that I'm getting from the outside is, hey, does everyone want to be included? You know what I mean? And it's something that this past year with the crypto winter, it's a bit everything sort of came into perspective, and people started shouting me at from the outside. Yeah, you're championing inclusivity, but does everyone want to be included? I still believe so. But I want to hear from you guys.
Well, it's a great question, and I appreciate your empowerment and women, especially in this space. I was at an event last night that my friend has been creating this company, and in just 1 year, she has worked really hard to onboard women into the Web3 space. And we just noted that over 8,800 women have onboarded just in the Miami community to Web3 and her company. And I'm just like, kudos to you. And it's just talking to people that are curious about the space and being very inviting. People want to come, they want to learn, they want to engage, they want to evoke emotion and really feel special, but they want to walk away from event with a takeaway. Like, what did I learn from this event? And that's where I think, myself included, there were so many conferences and so much going on. There was too much noise, and you really do get burnt out. And so it's like cutting through that noise and being intentional about what communities you want to join, because you can't join all of them. There's too many. And so picking the one that feels authentic to yourself makes a lot of sense. And I think if you hone in on that community, and whether it's female, male, no matter what color you are, like, have fun with it.
Yeah. But also we need to be, so just to add to that point, we need to be less judgmental, because I spoke to someone last week and she was grouped with a lot of super intelligent people on a panel, and she just felt very judged, right? So it's, and Web3 really needs to be a safe space for everyone. If it's truly for everyone, then like Christopher said, everyone doesn't have the same knowledge or knowledge base. So let's just stop pretending that someone is the alpha and the omega and the final word on the subject. And it's about the collective effort and, bringing everyone into Web3.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, right? Any community, no matter how pure of heart, does a certain amount of gatekeeping. You or I are in a club and we feel great about that club, and we don't necessarily want everyone to be in that club, because then all of a sudden you and I are less special, right? I think that's the antithesis of what Web3 technology is supposed to do. But naturally, as communities spring up, they want to be inclusive. For OneOf's standpoint, I think, hired the right people internally who had diverse networks and hired a diverse crew of advisors and staff, et cetera. And out of that, it happened that the people we reached to do some of our most prominent projects happened to be people of color, women, and other people that would sort of categorize, as an underrepresented group.
Yes.
And that then signaled to many other artists and brands and partners that this is a place where, diverse voices can thrive. And I really think the point is thriving, right?
Yeah.
What we want to make sure we understand, which I think OneOf has really experienced, is that diversity is not something that you practice to check a box, certainly. And it's also not something that you practice to have a safe community, which is also a benefit. It's something you practice because it's the optimal way to get the most creative people in the room. It's the optimal way to drive business and ideas that actually appeal more broadly. And it's the optimal way to do things that feel noteworthy. And that's really, I think, the lens folks need to look at it through. But because Web3, just like any community, started from a small group of people, that community has some growing up to do. And so I think it's the responsibility of organizations like ours, who deal with huge amplifiers like artists and brands, to really, really push that, because those are the people that have the ability to take diversity and inclusion and take it from a program or an idea or something we should do into something that is just a vital part of success.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're trying to be.
Well said, Chris.
That is the soundbite right there. I've never heard that takeaway ever. I never read it on the Discord.
That is sad.
I've never seen a clip. That is a takeaway. Ladies and gentlemen, Jen and Christopher from OneOf, thank you so much for joining me today. If the listeners want to go and connect with you and find out more about what it is that you guys do, where can they do that?
Sure, you can go to oneof.com. You can follow us at OneOf on Instagram, Twitter, Discord, Telegram. We're all over the place.
Thanks to Jen's work, we're quite easy to find.
We try our best. We love brand awareness over at OneOf.
Ladies and gentlemen, go and check them out. Well worth a follow. Thank you so much for joining us. To our listeners, peace, love, and prosperity. And we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.